So today's session is called Revizto 5.0 in the field. In this session, we're going to take a look at 5.0 on the mobile device and talk about the new features that we're bringing with 5.0 that revolve around object data and how that ties into our overall goal of providing better coordination and collaboration inside of our ICP platform. Now, today joining me, of course, I'll be running the webinar here, but we do have Sean Hester, who's our Strategic Construction ISM here in North America, as well as David Gomez, who is our Construction ISM in North America. And these two gentlemen that are joining me today take care of all of our construction-based clients here in the Northern Hemisphere, or in the Western side of the world. So, as we get through the topic, we're going to get through the showcase. We're going to have about 30 minutes for Q&A. They will definitely turn on the mics and join in on Q&A. They will also be managing the chat as well as the Q&A in the actual Zoom webinar panel. So if you have any questions while this is going on, please ask those in the chat or in Q&A. And they will jump in there and take a look at it. And if it's something that we want to talk about at the end of the webinar, we can definitely bring that up in a live discussion. So yeah, move through here. So let's talk about what we're going to be looking at today. Simply, we are going to be looking at what does 5.0 bring to the field above and beyond what Revizto brings to the field now in Revizto 4. So we're going to be focusing a lot on object data, the ability to search, and the use of this new way that we're bringing data into the platform. We're going to showcase that live on the iPad application, and then we're going to jump into Q&A. So this is going to be very much a mobile-based demo of the new product, and we're going to talk about that value that it brings and what it means to everyone that's actually deploying our product out on the site. Now, first of all, since this webinar is very, very targeted, I want to bring up the fact that we do operate on an entire project lifecycle, and that really relates to why we call our product an ICP, or an integrated collaboration platform. Today, we're really going to be focusing on accessibility. But keep in mind, we have various workflows that span all the way from conceptual design through the documented design, coordination, construction, estimating, and so on. So this is going to be a very, very targeted webinar. For those of you that are new with us, I definitely wanted to point this out, that this is a small subset of what we provide, but we feel it's very important, and especially with the new features that that we focus on this and talk about what we're bringing above and beyond the issue tracking, the 2D and the 3D. So a couple of things before we get started. We get a lot of questions about how big of model sizes can we use, what type of tablet should we be using, and what type of detail really essentially stresses out these mobile devices, right? A lot of us that work in this space, we have computers, very powerful computers that run the model at a very high speed. And as soon as we start to send that information out into the field, we start to limit our ability to use large data sets because of the devices that we're using. One of the things about Revizto 5.0 is that we've really done our best to optimize this platform. And what we're seeing is that we're seeing a huge reduction in model sizes on the 5.0 platform versus the 4 platform because of the way that we've rewritten our data structure. And also we have incorporated many tools that allow us to load and unload various parts of the model as we work in this. So we're going to be talking about those today as well. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in here. I'll get back to the Q&A slide here in a second, and we're going to open up the iPad and take a look at what all we have going on right here. All right, so first of all, what we're going to be focusing on mainly today is this area right here. So if you're familiar with our product, you'll know that we used to have an object cube here that would lead you to the object categories that we were working with, as well as various links and items like that. And so this is going to allow us to dive deeper into that data. Excuse me for one moment. I've got someone at the door. I apologize. All right, my apologies. So as we dive into this, what we're going to see is that Revizto 5 is really bringing an organized data structure to the mobile device. So as you can see, all of us are very familiar with the way that we work with data. And that data is structured in a way that we can really come in and see and template out how we're going to use that data and dive into that data at an object level, a system level, work sets, and all of that. So first of all, in the object tree, what you're going to see is that we now have the ability to expand all of our links and really dive into that data. So as you see here, we can actually focus in and look at various washer boxes that are being used in the model and actually navigate directly to those and see those properties here in the field. Now, you'll notice that we also have right-click functionality built into the iPad. So if we ever get into a situation where we can't see that object that we're navigating to, we have the ability to isolate that, isolate in transparency, hide, unhide, and even change the colors, focus on the objects, and load or unload various links that we're working with here in the model. So very easy to navigate the data, jump back and forth between various items, as well as see the properties here. So when we're talking about end use in the field, right, some of the most important things are being able to find these objects without having to navigate through the model and find them very quickly, and the ability to see the properties of any given item here. So as we look at this, we can see that navigation, we can see those properties. And the other thing that we're going to notice is that we can focus on various different parts of the data in the model. So as we know, as we work on projects together, there are going to be MEP professionals, there are going to be construction professionals, there are going to be design professionals providing construction administration. There are many different types of reasons that we would have this information in the field. And to all of those different individuals, there are different properties that are important to them, such as the ability to get that field info or actually see spooling info if we were to look at some sort of a spooling data set coming from the MEP or the MEP fabricator. Now, if we look at this field info and we look at what is rising to the top, you'll notice that we have these little heart icons next to each one of these properties. And what this allows you to do is to come through here, identify various different types of properties that are important to individuals on the project, and to be able to take those items, and as you can see, I'm going through the properties here. I can say the category is important to me. I want to make sure that that is favorited. And as we go back to the top here, we'll actually see that those categories or that category of plumbing fixtures is now added to the favorite properties. What this allows you to do is click through these various items. So as I dive in here to this information and we go over to this manifold, we're going to see those various items show up, and we're going to see those properties highlighted right there. So as we go through here, say we want to find a sleeve, we now have the ability to search the data directly in the object tree, making it very easy for people to find exactly what they're looking for in the model. So I'm going to get rid of the properties there. And you'll notice as I search for the term sleeve, it actually goes through and highlights all of the elements that we have there. So really, really important to being able to locate that. And as it highlights those items, if we need to navigate from one to another, we can do so by scrolling through here. You'll notice that as I scroll through the objects right here, you're going to see some various indicators as to where that data actually lives at in that tree. So as I scroll through here, I know that I can fly through here, and then here I can actually see that there's some objects selected. So that gives us an indication of where does this live on this information right here. Now, talking about the properties, so if I look at this individual sleeve, here I can see all of that favorited info, and I can even search for those properties right here. So if I want to find anything that has to do with an ID, I can actually search for those properties and find those there. I could also scroll right through those as I found them in that search bar. So easy to use search up here and easy to use property search here. And this search right here is really geared towards being able to search through the project for various information without knowing the data structure of it. A lot of times people in the field may need to search for a particular item, but they don't really know what category it comes from or what system or what work set it belongs to. And this allows us to not only keep those people off of the kiosk searching through old methods of object data, but actually put the power of the kiosk in their hands and allow them to work with the data on this mobile device. So what I want to talk about now is that we also have extended capability for searching and appearance profiling and all of that normal coordination type workflow or model viewing items that you need in the field that are held under a different UI. The UI that we've been looking at so far is really geared towards just finding objects in the tree, navigating to them, and being able to quickly reveal their properties. Now, what we'll see here is that if I get rid of these, I'm going to click on this tool right here. And what this is going to allow me to do is expand the Revizto 5 toolset. You're now going to see that we still have the ability to access the object tree and the properties, but we now have the ability to search. We have different sets. We have a way to inspect the items that you've selected, as well as the ability to profile out different views. This right here, since we're still in a beta phase, is our appearance templates. So here we'll be able to change the appearance of a model, and here we'll be able to create templates that can be applied at any camera level. One of the things that we feedback from is that if there's a camera position that we're using in a coordination meeting, we may want to view that model in various different ways inside of the model, and that's what the appearance profiler is going to allow you to do. So as I jump through these tools, let's take a look at some of the ways that they interact. Right? So for example, if I come back in here, you'll notice that I searched for the sleeves, right? I know that I want the sleeves, and let's say that I just navigated through here and I picked this item, right? So if I come through here, I'm going to actually select that item. Let's go ahead and turn the visibility on. And so I'm going to select that sleeve by double tapping on it. It's going to reveal the properties, and it's going to highlight that item in the data tree over here. Now, what I may need to do is actually create a search for these various types of sleeves. So here you can see that we have an item name that we're going to use to create a search. So instead of having to type all this information in, I can actually use my property information, select this here, and create a search based on the property of an instance. This allows people to go into the model, find a piece that they are interested in, and understand where all of those instances happen across the project. So if I click on this create search or tap on this create search right here, this is going to allow me to automatically compose a search that is going to find all of these object types. So once I'm in here, I say find all. And then what we can do is I can actually long tap in the model space to get my right click menu. Once again, we'll isolate those sleeves and transparency. Now, once this search is created from those properties, we can then save that as a search set. So here I can jump in here and say, okay, well, these are our sleeves. Say okay. Now you can see that I already had one in there, so it did create a duplicate. Really easy to deal with. If we want to get rid of this one, we can actually delete it. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. But as I click on these search sets, you're going to see that this gives me the ability to create those search sets from those various instances. This search set actually has a layer section box in it. So if I come up here and I look at the search, we'll see right there that we have those items there. And then we have our sleeves. Now, I can also see the various systems, various spool searches, any sort of risers, pipe types. We can see where all the hangers are located. We can also see where all the various fixtures are located right there in the model. So very, very powerful model-based features that we're bringing out to the mobile device here. Now, as I have these fixtures selected, I can actually go in and see all of the different items that are part of that set. What all do I have selected at any given time? And this is really, really powerful. So we can actually generate issues off of objects. One of the things that we're bringing to 5.0, and well, is already brought for anyone that's used the beta, is that we can now tie object data to issues. So if I select on this item here, well, let's go back out. Let's go look at the hangers real quick. All right, so we're going to jump in and we're going to look at this hanger. So let's say that we've selected the hangers, we're reviewing them, we're navigating back and forth to these objects, jumping through them based on a selection set. And we want to generate an issue based off of this hanger and actually send it out to somebody. For anybody that has used our stamping system before knows that we completely automate that workflow. And essentially the stamps are a way to send it to the correct assignee, filter it properly right from the get-go, as well as have that end up in reporting. We've tied our object data capability directly to that. So if I want to go up here, I can actually create a stamp from a collection of items. I can create multiple stamps on each item that is in here so that now we can do things like select multiple items. So if I come in here and select these 3 particular hangers, I can actually come up here and choose to create multiple stamps, creating a workflow for the field to where we can actually say, all right, how many hangers need adjusted or modified, and send those out as 5 different issues so that when we are reporting on hangers, we can actually see how many problems do we have, how many individual hangers needed moved or changed or laid out again, and then be able to report on that. Or we can create an overall issue if it's a specification issue, right? So this will create one issue with all 3 objects attached, and this will create 3 issues, 1 per each object. It really depends on what type of issue you're raising and if it's going to be a one change fixes multiple items or if each item needs to be looked at individually. A workflow that comes to mind with that is actually something like laying out points in the field, right? So each one of these hanger or sleeves needed points laid out. As you can see, and I search through this, I can actually identify all of my Trimble points that are in the model right here and where those need to be laid out to properly place those sleeves in the field. So if I once again go in here and go to the selection inspector, I can actually say, all right, this one, and this one, we need to make sure laid out before the end of the week so that we can get those sleeves in there before they pour. And so I can jump in here and create multiple stamps based off of these items here. And I can say point to field, create those 3 individual stamps, and it is actually going to tie those objects to the issues. So now when I select on these, we're going to actually see that there's one of the points that needs to be laid out, there's one, and then there's one located here. Now, as we expand on this object right here, we can actually see those tied to the model. I think my reflector stopped working. Hold on one second. Let me get my reflector going again. All right, I think we're almost back up and running. I do apologize for the couple delays we've had today. All right, so here we are. We'll talk about this here in a second. All right, let's jump back into those issues here. All right, so what we can see now is as we jump into the issues, we can see the object data, which is right here, and we can also see the properties behind the object that is tied directly to that issue. So very, very powerful way to actually tie object data to issues in the field and make that connection. Before Revizto 5, that connection was purely visible or visual, meaning that we would place a stamp on the item that would secure an XYZ location, and then that viewpoint would reveal the object. But what we're doing now is we're actually tying this data to the issues so that there's a true connection between the information in the model and the issue that it is represented. Now, as I minimize this and we jump back in here, you'll notice just as usual, we have all of our communication methods in here. So as you can see, we can see Sean is now working on that issue. Because when we assign these, because of the connection to the stamps, all of that was completely automated. And all of this is in reporting. And as you can see here, Sean has verified that that is correct in the field. And we're going to go ahead and close that issue out. That way, taking it all the way from the model information through the resolution of any issue that pops up from that, and keeping that information intelligently connected as we work our way through the model. So once again, jumping in here, we talked a little bit about the ability to see those items, the favorite properties, and how all of that is working. And then also we have the ability to come in here and really kind of set up any sort of appearance profiling that we want here. So as I come through here and I clear all of these out, I can actually go in and begin to add rules about the way that we're visualizing the model. So I can say, all right, we want to take a look at all of the different pipes. So we're going to jump into the pipe types, and we're going to take a look for any sort of plastic piping. Actually, let's take a look at all the pipe here. So we're going to take a look at all the pipe, and we're going to go ahead and define how do we want that pipe to show up in the view. You choose a color, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another modifier right off of that same search set, and I'm going to say that I want that pipe isolated. As soon as I apply this, what you're going to see is that it instantly changes our appearance profiling in the model. So this is going to be really, really powerful for on-site meetings and even in coordination meetings where you can hold that camera position and change exactly what we're looking at and how we're looking at it. So for example, if I wanted to come in here and add another search set and say, let's take a look at the hangers, we can actually select that search set there and once again modify this so that we can see those hangers as they relate to the pipe. So I'm going to once again duplicate that and isolate that in transparency as well. And there we can see all of those objects coming together where we can actually see the pipe and see the hangers and all of those objects together. Down at the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see the ability to save a viewpoint so that we can save any of these custom appearance profiles that we've done. And in the future, towards the end of the beta phase, this is where we're going to be able to save these as various templates so that we can maintain our position in the model and be able to flip through. Okay, we want to look at the mechanical systems. We want to look at the plumbing. We want to look at the piping. We want to look at telecoms, cable tray, all of that information there. In addition to these new features that we brought to 5.0, some of the things that we've done is we have reworked the way our viewpoints work. As you can see here, essentially a new dialogue, a little bit easier to read and search through. So here, as you can see, we can jump right through various viewpoints right there on the iPad and illustrate exactly what we're looking for. Here we can go to a level 12 view and then look at these various isometric views that we have here for any sort of piping that we have there. On top of that, we have a new modified way to look for rooms. So for example, we have all the same information that we've always had, but now we can jump back and forth from room to room very easily. So we're going to jump through here. Let's make sure that jump into this corridor here, and I've got to get rid of my appearance profile. So we'll jump back into here. And there we can see we're jumping from corridors, conference rooms, all of that information there. Same thing with searching, right? So if we want to search for, here we can say trash and recycling, vestibule, water vault. We can jump back and forth between those various elements there. In addition to the changes that we've made to the data, we've also used that as an opportunity to decide what is going to be loaded and what is not going to be loaded as we look at the model, right? So if I come out here, get rid of my section, and begin to show everything in the model, let's say that we have some information in this model that we don't need, right? Could be point clouds, could be design information, could be any one of these things. We also have the ability to load and unload various links in here. So if we wanted to get rid of the building, the design portion of that, and look only at the fabrication information for the purposes of either saving GPU and processor power, we can apply that, and what you're going to see is that it actually unloads that data. Now, that information is still connected to the project, but it is basically not being processed by the mobile device. And this really allows us to work with very, very large projects. And where we see this really benefiting teams out in the field is the ability to work with reality capture. Being able to turn on sections of point clouds, turn off sections of point clouds, and really make sure that we're using our mobile device to its highest ability to view these models in the field. In addition to the mobile devices, though, this really enables people without the super high-end PCs to get involved in large projects, because they can simply focus on what's important, hide what else is important, and not process anything that's not critical to their day-to-day operations. So what we've done here is we've taken a quick look at what Revizto 5.0 is bringing to the field. Before we jump into Q&A, there's a few things that I want to talk about. One is that a lot of this information and the workflows behind what we're trying to do here are in place in a lot of companies, but there's a lot of inconvenience related to the logistics of everything, right? Even some of our more advanced sites that are using one of those kiosk setups, if they need model information, they're walking from the portion of the site where the information is back to the kiosk, writing things down, communicating via email. all of that. And we really wanted to give them that power that they have at that particular computer out wherever they're standing in the field to be able to retrieve that information at any given time. And even worse, if you're not working with an on-site PC that is providing your models or anything like that, this may result into an actual call back to the office, or having to run back to the office, or have someone from the office run out to the site to provide information, or potentially do that via screenshots or publishing that information in some other way. That creates, you know, time spent on essentially retrieving context, right? We want to make sure that we're providing the most context that we possibly can in all of these models, and not only providing that context, but providing it in a way that prevents you from facing these logistical challenges on site. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open it up for Q&A, and let's see if I can bring my information back. Looks like we have a few items going on in chat, but yeah, Sean and David, did you see anything come through Q&A while I was chatting, or it doesn't look like we have any questions yet?
Yeah, I think the one thing we wanted to emphasize here, everyone who's on the call, is really the new parts of 5.0 and how accessible they are, you know, on the iPad. So if we do have any new users out there who want to look at typical Revizto workflows of documenting issues, walking through the 2D, 3D, and issue tracker parts of the integrated collaboration platform, we're happy to meet with you after this to talk through kind of the more step-by-step of what makes Revizto what it is from that integration collaboration platform. But again, today was more emphasized on those changes in 5.0 and how accessible they are, yeah, on the mobile devices.
Absolutely, and I do apologize for any new users that jumped in here to, you know, see a typical workflow on our iPad. We do have prior webinars that cover that, but this is really about how are we bringing that model data to the field, and what is different about 5.0 than what we've done in the past. We have tons of information out there about what 4 has done for the field and general issue tracking, model viewing. This one was definitely based on the new tools and the fact that that these types of tools are now accessible in a mobile environment, which is something that the industry really hasn't seen quite at this level. So yes, Tahir, I do apologize about that, but that is definitely not the focus of this webinar. All right, no other questions? Does anyone want to potentially unmute and ask a question live? So Matt asks, can you run 5 on a tablet and 4 in the office? And the answer to that is we cannot. 4 and 5 are completely different applications from an underlying installation standpoint. So if you are running a project in 4, you will have to run 4 in the field. And if you are running a project in 5, you will have to run the entire project in 5. And much of that has to do with the underlying structure of the information that we've provided or that we're working into the tool. So you cannot do that. It has to be one or the other.
I think to add on to that, Brett, we can run both 4 and 5 simultaneously on separate projects. So if you decide not to upgrade a project from 4 to 5, that project can continue to run in 4. So you can have the 2 separate Revizto applications running on your device.
Absolutely. We totally intend to support 4 for most likely around 18 months past the release of 5, making sure that any projects that are ongoing in 4 can remain in 4. we all know what it's like to try and upgrade software in the middle of a project. And sometimes that's just not the best path forward. So we are going to be operating 4 and 5. They do have the ability to run side by side, which is something that we have not done before. And yeah, and it's going to be a situation where if a new project is starting up, or you feel like a migration to 5 is going to provide enough value, we can definitely do that. But if we want to stay in 4, we're going to be able to do that for the foreseeable future. All right, looks like we have a question here. All right. Travis asks, can you generate reports based upon search sets or certain defined groups? For example, if we walk through the slab prior to pour, checking installed pipe sleeves, and when done, generate a work order list for the installer and sub to correct. So that's exactly correct. Since the objects connect to the issues, by creating multiple issues on all of the, by clicking on the object and creating an issue from that object, you're actually going to tie that object to the issue, and then issue reporting will pick up, make a list of what needs to be done out in the field for that work order list, and you'll be able to report that in real time based on your actions inside of the application. So Travis, I think that you're hitting on something really, really important about connecting that object data to the reporting, and the way that that can really, really amplify your ability to get that direction out and make sure that those people are held accountable. Now, the other thing is on the version, on the PC version, we also have the ability to export CSV files of object data. So we don't have object reporting yet. That is something that we'll most likely work towards in the future, but we do have the ability to get that out into a data format. But the workflow that we foresee for work order lists is going in there before the pour, taking pictures of the pipe sleeves, connecting those objects to the issues, and then creating that issue list, properly filtering those, generating reports, and then automating those reports on the back end.
I think the other thing worth noting there that would probably help Travis, and something that we'll probably cover a little bit more in depth in another webinar, is the ability to add custom properties to the geometry in Revizto. So, you know, getting back to that pour sequence that Travis was talking about, if that pour was good, all sleeves are accounted for, you know, you have the ability to add a custom property, basically saying, you know, pre-pour has been completed, that slab is ready to be poured, or, you know, have all sleeves been checked, yes, type of property within the geometry. That way you can start to create those search sets around the pours that are ready to go, and have them compared to the pours that still need to be looked at. And that, in combination with what Brett was talking about from an issue management perspective, you still need those pours with the sleeves that still need to be redone. You still need someone to go out and check those. So the issues can be checked, they can be signed off on, and then that pour can be changed to a thumbs up, ready to go.
Yep, good point, Sean. So we've got another question here. Can Revizto 5 be used as a front end to an NWD exported data set from Revit to IFC or in BIM 360 or others? So this is going to be a pretty hot topic with our implementations running for, going forward, is that we still are maintaining our connection to Navisworks. So you still are going to be able to bring in an NWD or an NWF and see that data inside of Revizto. Same thing with Revit. We're going to be able to bring in IFC. We are working towards a potential BIM 360 Forge integration to bring in models from there. A lot of it really depends on how are you receiving data and what is your workflow. For all intents and purposes, you are going to be able to federate directly inside of Revizto. But instead of it being in a PIN procedure, it is going to be more of an export procedure from each of the softwares that we have an integration with. Also bringing in IFC. We totally intend for people to be federating directly in Revizto. The other thing that we didn't show today is the ability to transform models, which is something that is also in Revizto 5. So anybody that's worked with any of our workflows knows that the coordinates have to be correct upon coming in. And it's something that we either do inside of Navisworks or we do inside of Revit. Make sure that everything is coordinated and then we bring it in. But for some individuals, especially on the construction and the MEP side, for people that run coordination, they don't always have that opportunity. So we have allowed the ability to transform these models, hold that transformation. And the best part about this is if it is Revit information, we are going to also transform the sheet. So it's more of a file transform than it is a model transform. So, very interesting. We intend for the workflows to totally shift towards a federation inside of Revizto, especially as we encroach upon including our clash detection module. All right, so moving on to the next question here. What happens if an object is deleted in the authoring model and then an issue is attached to the object? Well, what will happen is that that issue will still be there. It will still maintain the camera location, but that object information just will no longer be appended to it because it doesn't exist. So if there's a situation where we attach like an object and say this needs to be removed in the model, that'll be another way of verifying it. So if the object data goes away, the issue does not, but it'll be very apparent to the end user that that information is no longer there, because we'll no longer be able to see that object data in the issue itself. All right, David or Sean, anything that you wanted to add above and beyond what we've touched on today, or any observations that you want to bring up?
Well, I think from my end, what we're touching on, especially for the new 5.0 features here, we did mention this earlier, that all this functionality is to raise the knowledge level of a field user. Obviously, to some, to those who are used to a mobile iPad, and used to a 3D environment viewing while they're out on site doing their field walks, this is that next level for them. There are obviously steps to take, and our existing features that we've had up to this point, 2.5, are those conversations that we had of before we actually move into, I would like to call this more of an advanced user level of searching the model data for these items. Definitely paths forward that we'd like to take, and really just showing more of the importance of that detail of the model itself to the rest of your project teams. That in itself, I think, will definitely raise the roof of any company's departments, and really just support technology in a greater way. Just something I'd like to just add on top of the entire conversation here.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Another point that I want to make, and it kind of goes back to what Tahir had said at the beginning, is that we totally intend to have two different types of users using this in the field, right? There's going to be some people that are really savvy with model data that are going to use these advanced features. But ultimately, one of the ways that you can look at it is that, as you can see, I use this button here to switch the interface back. What we're going to look at doing is saying, all right, if you're a field user that simply wants to navigate the model and look at items, the only improvements here are really the fact that we now have an object tree and a new properties dialog that replaces the old object, right? Not everyone needs to be using these advanced features. It's really about understanding who's going to make the most value of it, who's going to use it, and who it may be a detriment to, and selecting the people that have the access to this UI very, very carefully, right? Diving back in here, as a general field user, I may just want to come in here and see the properties, right? And that's something that we totally intend for people to be using. We do not expect everyone to be using the advanced tool set that we've shown today, but we do expect some people to be using it, especially the people that are running softwares like Navisworks, Celebri on site to gather information about what we're doing out there. But for that general end user, it's still going to all be about selecting the object, grabbing the stamp, coming in here and, you know, basically specifying exactly what we want here, right? So we come in here, we've got this item here, maybe we have some sort of fitment issue, we just drop the stamp right there, create an issue. We don't intend for that workflow to change, but what we do intend for is for those advanced users to gain even more functionality in the field, relate that back to where all of their contextual information is, and be able to make those changes no matter where they are, and distribute those changes to the team very quickly. So,
question from Karthik. He says, is there a way to turn off advanced options from the UI?
yes, so right over here, this is where you're going to see the ability to switch back and forth. By the time the beta period ends, we plan on attaching permissions to this so that whenever you create a user in the software, you're going to be able to say, does this user have capabilities to use the advanced AI? And if not, we'll see that option grayed out there. So then you can define those roles like we do here in Share, to where we can actually say and manage that access level and choose if that person's going to have the ability to use the advanced AI UI or not. So that is a really good question, because the one thing we don't want is for someone that doesn't understand everything that we've shown here today to click this on and then get lost in the information, the additional information and options that they have. Keep it simple, keep that object tree right there, and be able to say, oh, okay, I want to search for elbow, right? Search for that elbow and then say, oh, here's where all of my elbows are located. I want to go ahead and navigate to that one. Okay, looks like we have a design issue. I'm going to come in here, drop my stamp. And this is what we totally intend on, that end user, that someone that is just using it for field capabilities, that's what we intend for that workflow to be. For everyone else that is modifying things in the field at a high VDC type level, that is where this advanced UI will come into play. All right, everyone. Well, if we don't have any further questions, we'll go ahead and let you get back to your day. We really appreciate you joining us for this webinar. Hopefully it gave some good insight on some of the advanced capabilities that are coming to the iPad app here. We do plan on releasing 5.0 on the Android tablets as well. One thing I will say is that Android's much harder to support than an iPad because of all the various builds. So we do always suggest an iPad if that is a viable option for you. And yeah, sorry, just checking the chat right there. And then all of this ties back into the standard Revizto 5 functionality back in the office, right? So this allows everyone to be on that same platform, using that same information, generating those reports together, working in unison to try and crunch those schedules, shorten the work to be done, and make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. So once again, I appreciate everyone coming on board today, and hopefully you gained some valuable insight on what we plan to bring to the field. Thank you, everyone.